When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
Hey, it's Meredith. You're listening to the Afternoon Snack Podcast. On today's episode, we are touching on a tried and true topic, goal setting. This is the episode that we were going to release last week before we went down a therapeutic rabbit hole. But as it's early December and we are careening towards 2026, this is always a good time to talk about goal setting. And honestly, kind of fun to revisit this topic through some different and evolving lenses as we have worked with people for a long time, as we continue to work on ourselves. We're going to touch on our goal setting fallacy, the thing, timeline, result fallacy. The title of that fallacy is a work in progress. We're going to talk a bit about sunk cost and how that shows up in big and small ways. We're going to talk about growth opportunities and what those look like. And we're going to sprinkle in some personal anecdotes that I think you're going to enjoy hearing.
Okay, I'll start.
You start.
How's it going? You look not quite right.
Well, number one, I'm freezing cold. And I went out on a bike ride that was both longer and harder than I was ready for. But it's like you just get sucked in sometimes because it's like beautiful. You can ride outside. There's this trail. So I'm talking about fat biking, like winter biking. And there's this trail that normally is just too snow covered to ride. Like it's not a fat biking trail. It's a trail that people sometimes, I guess, snowshoe on, hike on, but it heads up towards Island Lake Lodge. And so at some point also you just get into sort of backcountry sort of territory. So it's not a biking trail, or it's not a trail that people bike. It's never in that condition. But because it's
a biking trail in the summer though.
Yeah. And it's actually really fun and really beautiful. And, but because it's still like relatively early in the season, like early December, and there's not much snow base, I was like, I bet Lazy Lizard is bikeable. And so I was going to go bike somewhere else, and I just went to the trailhead, or one of them, to take a look. And I was like, damn it, it is bikeable. And so I just took off. Me and the girls, Rue and Joe. And there was clearly like one other person that had biked the lower part of it. And so I was kind of in their track for a while, and then it got up to like, you know, the trailhead for P9, and then you get going. And then the track disappeared. So then it was literally like just me like breaking trail on Lazy Lizard, like the upper part. And it was really cool. There were some spots that were sort of hairy because it's loose, but it was really just kind of like a slog up, and then because it's loose snow and I don't have studded tires, sort of a sporty experience on the way down. But it was fun. It just was long. It was like an hour and 45-minute ride.
Were you cold when you were out there?
I wasn't cold when I was, because fat biking's super hard. Like it's just very physical. So you always kind of look a little underdressed. Like if you're dressed appropriately for the temperature, when you go out, you're overdressed for sure.
Right. You should feel a little bit cold.
Yeah.
That's that's the way that I treat running. Mm-hmm. If I'm cold for the first kilometer, and not really cold, just like, ooh, did I wear enough?
Yeah.
I know I've got it perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had on like a base layer, and then a Velocio long sleeve insulated mountain bike top, gloves, neck tube, like a thin chamois, long johns, and then shell pants. So pretty lightly dressed. But you're like, I'm very aware of how much I'm sweating when I'm out there. So it's kind of like as soon as you stop, you start to feel a little cold. And then I was thinking like, I should probably pack like some sort of emergency. Like if something happened out there, you'd be screwed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But at least on that trail, it's easy to get to because it follows a road.
Yeah.
Like it's just off to the side, parallels a road.
Yeah.
I always wonder how cold I get after runs. If I'm running outside in the snow or in the winter, as soon as it drops below freezing, so in Celsius, anything below 0, I'm fine when I'm running up to about -20, maybe a little colder with wind chill. But then I get inside, and even if I take all of my clothes off, and I'll be sweating, if I take my clothes off and they're wet, immediately I am freezing in my core.
Yeah.
And I think it's because even though my internal body is warm from running, if I touch my skin anywhere where there's like any fat, it's frozen. Like my butt cheeks are bright red.
Oh, it's such a weird feeling.
And then sometimes if I shower right away, they get itchy.
Yeah, the itchy thing is wild.
But I think it's when even though your innards are warm from exercising, if your skin is really cold, you get cold before your body can't handle that cold. It just seeps inward.
Well, I think there has to be something to that because I think when you actually are experiencing coldness, like your body protects your core. Like that's it sends maybe blood flow to your core, and if you're running, maybe like your muscles, obviously, but then away from extremities, or maybe it doesn't have to work as hard to keep extremities warm because there are muscles working. But then you get back inside, and like the opposite happens. So the blood starts moving back towards your extremities, which are cold and need blood flow, which makes your core feel.
It's like we got to warm up these butt cheeks right away, or they might fall off.
Yeah. They're not looking good, and I do mean that literally. Yeah, it's such a weird. I don't do so much winter running anymore, but I was doing it for a bit there, and that is one of the strangest feelings. That sort of like numbness that you get on the back of your legs and your butt.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I hate it. I love running in the cold. It, number one, is great for getting outside in the winter, even though the footing isn't amazing. Number two, you, for some reason, feel extremely superior because there's way fewer people doing it. But I cannot stand being like that cold after.
Yeah.
And even a shower doesn't do it. I have to be fully submerged in hot water.
Yeah. It's got
So
it's
hot
like
tub.
hot tub or nothing, or like a bath.
I don't think I would go outside if we didn't have a hot tub.
And I've said this to you, I would rather have a sauna than a hot tub.
I don't know. Because a sauna, you get in and it's warm, but you're not engulfed by water.
I know.
So I guess we just get both. Or get the sauna one day.
Yeah. A girl can dream. So we're going to do today the podcast that we were supposed to do last week, but we never got off our intro story. Our intro just became that topic. Which, do you want to provide any update? I feel like people are probably vested of an interest.
Okay, the update is we had another therapy appointment yesterday. So a week after the last one.
Pause 1 second. We are in the phase of therapy where she doesn't ask if we want to rebook. It's like, see you next week. And then we were on the, I pulled up the email to like, because it's virtual, so to click the link. And there's basically appointments scheduled out through like February. I was like,
once a week. I was thinking, well, that's presumptuous.
I
guess she doesn't think we're going to be cured by February.
No. Anyways, go on.
Last session was good. I didn't sink into the couch. I didn't give the therapist attitude.
No tude. No lip.
Yeah. But she did enter into the session a little bit hesitant.
Mm-hmm. Like she clearly, you gave her pause. She thought long and hard about how she wanted to show up.
Yeah. She said, Okay, so how is everyone feeling right now where we're at? Because last session was heated. I'm just going to name it. And we're thinking, oh, it's been named.
It has been named. It has been recorded on record into a podcast.
It's been made into an inside joke.
It's been laughed at.
So that's the update. Things are still going.
It's whatever.
I haven't quit yet.
It's still there. Yeah.
But yeah, this is, I think, maybe not quite as interesting of a topic as our therapy, but still a really interesting one and one that we've touched on. But I think it's a really nice time of year to revisit how to set goals, what good goal setting is, and what to avoid. Because we're coming up on January, where a lot of people start thinking about goals. I know for a lot of endurance athletes, the spring season is approaching. So finding a goal that you're going to chase within the next 5 to 6 months is kind of exciting. So with that, let's talk about goals.
Yeah. And I realize this is one of many goal setting episodes that we've done, but I think like with anything, your outlook evolves, the way that you see things evolves. And that's certainly been the case for us. And, you know, even with this therapeutic work that we're doing, I don't think that exists outside of this. And I think a great example of that is what you thought it was going to be and what it is. It actually is like a perfect example that fits right into this framework, because you definitely had to let go of the timeline here.
Trust me, I have wanted to ask how much longer? How much longer does this usually take? When will I be cured?
Yeah.
But I have refrained from doing that. I don't want my therapist to fire me, even though sometimes I want to fire her.
Yeah. So we've talked about, there's kind of this, I don't know what we could call it, like a triad fallacy. It's sort of like the three things that are most commonly associated with a goal that someone sets when they set a goal, which is the, I guess, completion of it, the thing, the actual whatever it is, the result, which often comes as a byproduct of just having a thing in mind, and then the timeline that people want to do that in.
So a really good example is I want to run a half marathon on May 20th, and I want to run it in sub 2 hours. That's the 3 points.
And when we talk about goal setting for most people, you can't have all three. So if you think about, you have at the top of a triangle, like if you're going to diagram this, you have whatever the thing is. So just name it. Marathon, being cured in therapy.
And that's a joke, by the way.
Yeah, we're being funny. And then on the opposite one side of the triangle, you have the result that you're after, being cured, running a time, whatever. And then on the opposite, so on the third corner of the triangle, you have the timeline, being cured by December. Wouldn't that be a nice Christmas present?
Oh, that would be
everybody?
Amazing.
Well, we're in December. That's not going to happen.
End of September. We'll be cured in 2 sessions, right?
Yeah, totally. Or, yeah, like you said, running that goal time in May. And so you can have 2 of those things, but you can't really have all 3 because it becomes a little too constrained, especially if it's something new for you. I think this is where a lot of people's frustration comes in. It's because they have these really grandiose ideas of the thing that they want to accomplish, but they want to accomplish it by a certain date. And you see this a lot when people get to the age of like 40 or 50, because they start setting these milestone goals. I'm going to do an ultra marathon by my 40th birthday. Or I want to, do a 200-mile bike race when I turn 50. And that's all fine and good. if there's no result associated with that, and you're not in an event that's like going to cut you off for not making time cutoffs, that's fine. But when you put the pressure of a specific time on that goal, so like Unbound would be a great example because you have time cutoffs at the checkpoints, at the aid stations. It doesn't matter, like unless you're like if you're just off the couch and you haven't trained a bunch, like those are relevant to the result. So by putting those constraints in place, you apply a lot of pressure to the goal, and you might fall short. So then you've kind of failed potentially both of those things. You failed the time goal and maybe even the completion goal because you weren't flexible enough with the timeline. And this often occurs.
Or the pacing.
Or the pacing. Yeah, you just blow up.
Mm-hmm. Because you're not capable yet.
Yeah. And this often occurs. It's not usually a surprise. Like when people go out and they blow up in a goal like this, like things can happen. There can just be like a mechanical that takes you out of a race. Like that happens to professionals. Things outside of your control. But if it's for a lack of training or a lack of capacity where someone is right now, like it's not usually a surprise, but it doesn't take the edge off of the frustration a lot of the time. And that's the risk with having, like when you have this trifecta in place, circling all three. Mm-hmm. That's the risk with that.
I think a secondary risk is having a timeline that's 3 months to a year. And this can be performance related, mental health related, body comp related, career, money related. Not that much happens within 3 months, but a lot of people set 3-month goals. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is if somebody sets a 3-month goal, just for a hypothetical, and at 6 weeks, they've not really progressed, at least enough to be able to see where they're going to be at in 12 weeks. Okay, I'm at 6 weeks and I now can run 8K without stopping. How on earth am I going to do 21K at this pace in just 6 more weeks, with 2 of those weeks being a taper? And what happens is that pressure and that fear prevents them from even chasing that goal, or even adjusting it. It's like, well, I'm not going to get my goal time, so like why even try? Or you just subconsciously, and it's not really subconscious, but you just start missing training sessions.
Yep.
And then you almost handicap yourself. You show up to the race day mm-hmm. and you're like, oh, I'm not really trained, so I'm probably not going to hit my goal. But you could have been a lot closer to your goal had you not had that goal. The goal of, let's say, hypothetically sub 2. You could have been, I don't know, 210, 215, but instead of the self-sabotage, or because of the self-sabotage, you end up at 230.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if you're probably going to do another half marathon, at least you're a step closer if you really commit to it. And understand that maybe you shouldn't have set that timeline or that pace goal.
Right.
Either one. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that happens with people in nutrition with expectations of, we don't like talking a lot about weight loss, but weight loss or body comp changes or strength gains. Well, I'm not seeing any progress in 4 weeks. Well, you just spent 4 weeks learning how to air squat. So like, yeah, you're not going to see progress, but you're building the base that's going to allow you to make progress in the future.
Yeah. There's kind of that total beginner scenario where you just don't have a well-developed understanding of the time that certain things take. Mm-hmm. But also, you sometimes run into this with people who have had capacity in the past, like, and have just gotten a little bit older, or their career became more demanding. So it's like, well, I ran a 1:45 half marathon 5 years ago. That's my goal, and they're like not even close to that. And it's like, well, what were you doing 5 years ago? And it's like revisionist history, but also just a reference point that's inappropriate. And people let that guide the goal setting because they struggle to accept that where they're at right now is just a very different place than where they're at 5 years ago. And the thing about that is that lesson, the lack of acceptance and the lesson that comes with that lack of acceptance, that's going to keep coming up. in different ways until you're like, yeah, things are different than they used to be. So maybe I just need to adjust how I'm doing things and what my expectations are, and also make sure that I'm doing things that I really care about. Because that's, just because you did something one time or a while ago doesn't mean that it's necessarily an appropriate goal to set. It's still really relevant experience, and you can look at it that way. It certainly helps to have that. But you don't get anything for it.
Yeah, and it can be hard to hear that or accept that 5 years ago you were able to run a 145 and now you can't, or you're not even close when you run a 5K to that pace. But one way to help that go down a little bit easier is to look at your life, and there's likely a reason why you're no longer running a 145 half marathon, or you don't have that capacity. And it's for most people because you have more things in your life. And sure, in some cases they're stressful and they add responsibility, but they're things that you've chosen for the most part. Maybe you've leveled up in your career path, or you have a family, or I don't know, you've got other interests. You have other things. It's not that you've just lost something. Mm-hmm. You just have replaced some of that time that you spent running doing other things. And maybe this is just a point where you can look at your life or your days or your weeks and say, I actually want running back in my life. How can I refigure this? But I think instead of looking at that from a positive approach, a lot of people just think about what they can't do anymore.
Right.
Which I get, but it is a helpful reminder to understand that there's a reason why you don't have something, and it's because you most likely have a lot of other things.
Yeah. And it's not to say, like, you can have all three, but it comes with a lot of experience. And so when you look at anyone who is like really good at the thing they do, and sports are just kind of the easiest example of this, and so that's why they're easy to draw in, but you could draw other examples. When you have enough repetition with something, you can say, as an athlete, as a marathoner or a half marathoner or any type of athlete, I think I can do this like at this race, like by this time. And so you set stretch goals. You set goals that are not necessarily guaranteed. And those are the things that guide your training and inform day-to-day choices. And you go there and you push for it. And if you have a good day on your most important day, you get there. But the thing that comes with that, with having all three, is also knowing that failure is a real option and a possibility, and being able to accept that. But the thing about the repetition is that it's less meaningful. Like it's not like professional athletes are, or people, not even professional athletes, just people who have done a lot of one thing and they understand where they're at. That one race is not the measure of who they are in this specific arena. And I think that's what allows certain people to show up and give their best effort and strive and fall short and move on, because it's not this thing that's so heavily tied up into their identity that they're doing for their 40th birthday or like 50, or like, to do something for themselves. Like, it's not that. And I think if most people were to just stop and reflect on, like, what's the thing that you're really good at? Is it what you do for work? Think about where this picking all three, where you do that and where you're able to do that. And then how falling short, like not achieving a goal, feels. It probably feels fine because of everything I just explained. And so you can kind of take that forward and just understand that if you're not to that level of expertise with that amount of repetition with a goal, it's just not wise to set goals that way. That's it. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you can't still make really good progress in that thing. But it just means don't set yourself up that way, because it's hard to walk that back once you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And just using the running goal, which really is the only goal, I guess maybe, you could look at this from a strength standpoint based on where you're at and how you've progressed in the last 8 weeks. So let's say you start a running program or a lifting program, and you've got the moves down, so you're not like a super beginner. Maybe you're just getting back into it after several years off. You would assess, and say you're running a half marathon in 3 months, or maybe you're starting a strength and conditioning program and you want to improve performance or improve your body composition. You can set kind of goals based on the last 8 weeks of progress. So for running, if you're like, all right, my easy pace is 7 minutes per kilometer right now, running at an easy pace, based on that, I'm going to set a goal for a half marathon to run it at 6:45. I think that's doable, but you're using very recent data, not data from 5 years ago.
Yep.
Or just picking a goal because you typed into Google, what's a good time for a half marathon? Which, like, trust me, most of us have done.
What's a good FTP?
Yeah. I mean, I've had people say, what's a good score for this? And I'm like, well, whatever you got is good for where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you try hard? And then you just go from there, accept where you're at to get to where you want to go.
Yep.
So that kind of encompasses on how to set good goals. I think one thing that's in terms of just setting results-based goals is, and sometimes you need help with this, or you really have to look at recent data or do a test, but figuring out what is within reasonably achievable.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to the timeline plus the result. If it's not achievable, then it's going to feel defeating. If you have to strive a little bit, it's going to be engaging. And this means a big goal, but it also means weekly goals. You want to feel like you're looking at your weekly program or your weekly nutrition plan. And I don't mean like nutrition program where you're following a bunch of rules, like your whatever will make your week a successful one, that's achievable. Yeah. But you're also challenged in some ways, but reasonably so.
Yeah, it doesn't rely on you to have your best day every day.
Yeah.
I think that's also really important because it kind of goes back to that raise the floor, not the ceiling conversation. Like, look at your average output and just ask yourself, like, how close am I to doing what I will have to do to make progress towards this goal at baseline? How big of a daily change is this going to be for me? Because if it's too big, it's not going to happen. It just isn't. Versus like if you can just over time move that average up, like the daily things come up slowly, maybe one day, but there's this, it's tricky because there are just people out there that are dreamers, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a really endearing personality trait, but sometimes it just creates situations where you're a little overambitious and over optimistic with what the day-to-day looks like for something like that. And it's, a bit of the arrival fallacy too, because you think a little too much about how it's going to feel to cross that finish line or achieve that goal, and not enough about what it's going to feel like every single day to put in the thankless and the unrewarding work required to even get there. And that can be so draining and discouraging when compared to the feelings of fantasizing about the finish line, that it just creates this kind of like cognitive dissonance almost, where you're like, why am I not excited about this? Well, you're not excited about this because it's a little too much right now.
Yeah, or it's 6 months away. You have to fill that time doing something that you maybe necessarily don't even like doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes to the second level of how to set good goals. And they're questions that I think need to be asked. And a couple that come to mind are you achieving some daily fulfillment from chasing the goal? So we're really bringing it down like a big macro goal into micro level goals. Are you feeling accomplished from your runs if you're running? Are you enjoying the process of learning about nutrition? Or do you And I'm not saying that when you're chasing a goal that matters to you, that every day has to be this thing that you're super excited about and happy to do. I think we all have those workouts that we don't necessarily feel like doing, or we don't really want to eat the meal that aligns more with our goals, or we don't want to go to work. But over the course of time, you look back and you think to yourself, yeah, most of the time I enjoy that. It brings me fulfillment and I feel accomplished on a daily basis. The second one that comes, are you excited to chase those goals? And that, I think about myself, and of the goals that I have been really excited to achieve, I wake up in the morning thinking about what I get to do to progress towards that. I mean, when I was doing CrossFit, and this is an extreme example, I was genuinely the highlight of I was excited to train. I mean, I'm sure you had that. And that was for years. It brought me so much joy. And now, frankly, I like getting up and working on the business. It is exciting, especially when we have projects on the go. And then the last one, and I think this is a really, really important one, especially with social media, would you chase this goal if no one was looking?
Yeah.
That is a big one. Would you chase this goal if you didn't get a medal? Would you chase this goal if you couldn't post about it? Would you chase this goal if there were no crowds? Would you chase this goal if there wasn't a finish line even? And I think, maybe some people do chase goals for a finish line, and that's fine. I remember we touched on this with Rebecca Rush. And I think that finish line can be motivating and bring a sense of accomplishment, because there are intermittent, what do you call them? Intermittent, achievements.
Yeah,
and milestones, and finish lines can be representative of that. But I think this question can just keep going deeper. Would you chase this goal I've asked this question, would you run if you knew you wouldn't get faster? And I think all of these questions there's no right or wrong answer.
No, I think you can answer no to that question, because maybe with running, I really like feeling like I'm able to make progress with something. And that means that if it was okay, you're not going to make any more progress with this, maybe move on to something else. I mean, it's a total hypothetical, because the reality is if you do something in a sustainable way, you will make progress and you will sustain that progress. And if you can reframe that, even with aging, if you're able to reframe what progress looks like and what achievement looks like, you can still make progress if your times are not as fast.
Yeah, you can make progress in age group rankings. You can also ask yourself how this goal serves other values in your life.
Yeah,
maybe the goal is to just keep running as you age, which means continuing to run right now.
Yep. Yeah, I remember a while ago we got into objectives versus goals. And I think that great goals are actually more objectives, which is just really an orientation towards something. And then within the objective, you can have ambitions. And that's what I think people name as goals most often. But the objective is something that truly is centered around your core values and what you appreciate most in life, versus I'm going to do this for this reason and think that that's going to solve something for you or make you into a person. You can certainly be made into, you can be made by a process, but it's not a fast one. And I think that you have to be willing to abandon goals along the way. To truly be made by the process of striving in different areas. You have to accept that you're going to set some horrendous goals along the way. And while you don't want to get into a pattern of abandoning goals, I think it's well worth the effort and curiosity to sit with what you're choosing and why, and learn those lessons. And some may be hard lessons to learn, and some may come a little bit faster. But through that, you figure out what your values are. You figure out what matters to you and why you're doing certain things. And maybe where you end up is a place that looks totally different than where you started.
Have you ever abandoned a goal before?
I think when I was like dabbling into long distance swimming, I like wanted to be that person because I have the aptitude, I have the ability and the training history, and I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like, why don't I do this? And then I got into the doing, and I just like wasn't in it. And so I'm glad, because I think that's actually where like my re-interest in distance cycling came back, was I wanted something else, not swimming. But I held on to it for a long time. And there are parts of that I still appreciate, like getting into more distance swimming and out of like middle distance training, which was my whole career with swimming, was different. But that is, yeah, that's one. I'm sure there are.
Where was the race that you were going to do?
Alaska.
But where?
Sitka.
Oh, I was thinking like, I mean, I went to school up in Alaska, but when you set that goal, I was like, that'll be cool.
It's just so absurd. Like, do a 10,000 meter swim, sure. Do a marathon swim, but why do the furthest north one in North America? Like, why not just choose?
Can you imagine how cold that would have been?
It would have been.
I don't think I even knew what you were getting into after doing Indian Wells. What was the temperature of the water supposed to be?
It was, I mean, because of the time of year in August, the water is warmer, like 53 usually, around like between 50 and 53.
What was Indian Wells?
58.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. That's not warm.
But they ended up canceling that year anyways, because they had this like crazy storm roll through, and
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, the water temperature was just not, it was even colder, because I don't know if it was an inversion that happened or what, but nope, no can do. They didn't do it. So yeah, that would have been frustrating to have that canceled, because yeah. But I think outside of that, I mean, I had a white picket fence life goal at one point that I abandoned pretty aggressively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that that getting to that point where you're with a goal and you kind of feel almost like you're at a threshold where you're like, I want to want this, but I don't. Like, I wish that I could want this, but there's this like sort of gnawing, nagging feeling that you're misaligned. And that can be like a very specific goal, like a sporting goal. That can be a life goal too. I mean, that's a lot of people get into careers and they have that, and then you just get stuck because cost starts to kick in. And I know people, you get stuck in life that way. But the thing is, you can't ignore that forever. It's going to come to a head, mm-hmm. one way or another.
I love that. You want to want that goal.
Yeah.
Because it's why? Easier, comfortable, acceptable.
I think you don't have to face the fact that you made a mistake. You don't have to face the fact that you set a goal because you don't know yourself or because you wish that you were someone different. But doing something like that, it's not going to change who you are. Like, you are who you are. And if you don't like who you are, there's a different kind of work associated with that. That has nothing to do with swimming 10,000 meters or running 100 miles. Like, because you're going to do that. And this is the worst part of those goals. Like, let's say I stuck that out, and I wasn't doing that from like, that was not coming from a place of like, I don't like myself. But I do know that there are a lot of people who do a lot of things because they think that they will feel differently about themselves when they do that thing. And the worst thing that happens is that they do it and then nothing changes. Like, you cross the finish line, cool. You go to work, you literally just like go back to your life.
No one cares.
And it's not about anyone caring, but I think that you kind of realize, like, shoot, there's a little more to this.
Yeah.
And especially if that goal is misaligned with what it is that you're feeling and where you need to be working. Like, people spend a lot of effort and energy on things that are distracting, time consuming. They can feel good in moments, But like all you're doing is sort of backing yourself into a corner with that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's no one's fault. And that's the thing is like the sooner you can recognize that and name like, yeah, this, I did it again. I set a bad goal again. I did that thing. So what's the lesson here? What can I look at? What can I observe? Don't judge yourself. Everyone does it. But the better you get at that, the better you get at goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
You stop doing that.
Yeah. I had a question, but it's eluding me now. I think that there are people who set goals like running 100 miles and it can completely change their life. Because in the same way that people want it to change them and it doesn't, there are handfuls of people where it does change them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a guarantee. And it's not that just doing it changes you. Crossing a finish line does not change who you are.
But maybe
or how you see yourself.
Getting involved in a different community does.
Yeah.
A more supportive community. Like look at, it's the things that change day to day.
Yes. Yep.
If those things change, then you will change.
Yeah, I think about, for me, CrossFit. And I don't think about the podiums or going to the CrossFit Games when I think about how CrossFit impacted my life. I think about my first CrossFit gym that I went to and the people that I met that I still keep in touch with and how they changed my life. And I think about the travel. I think about how I met you. I think about the really, really hard days and the really, really good days and how different they are, but how valuable both of them were. And just never the actual accomplishments.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting to think back. I liked that you talked about the sunk cost. So I think that's a really big one in so many aspects of life, which is described as when you have invested so much into something that you just do it anyway because you feel like if not, then it was a complete waste of time.
It's not even like so much all the time. Sometimes it's just you invested a medium.
Yeah. Maybe you paid for an entry fee.
Look, do you remember that at Rebecca's this year where I had bought tickets to the Sunday night, like the concert, and everybody got home and no one wanted to go.
We all felt bad not going because tickets had been purchased.
Yeah, but I'm like, look, like the tickets weren't expensive and the cost is our time. There's an additional cost beyond the monetary cost, and it's doing something that you don't want to do with your time.
Everyone felt so bad. We were all like, well, what do you want to do? I don't care. What do you want to do? So finally I said, okay, we're going to do a blind vote.
Cover your eyes, and if you want to stay home and eat pizza and watch TV, raise your hand.
We all opened our eyes. Everyone had their hands up. And that was that.
But that's it. That's a small example of how an investment gets people stuck in things.
Imagine being in something for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then realizing you hate it. And it's like, well, I've gotten this far. I might as well. I don't want to start over. But you're miserable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't because of financials or insecurity. And I don't know, can and can't. I've never been in that situation. But I do know people who've started from scratch and been okay and way happier rather than continuing to go down a rabbit hole where you're miserable.
Yeah. And I think there's, you kind of want to be careful with like, it'll be fine. Just bootstrap your way out of your shitty situation.
I've never been in that situation.
Yeah. Like there are situations that are difficult to get out of. But assuming that there's a way and that the thing that is most prohibitive to someone moving in a different direction is that well, I've invested so much time into this path that I must stay on it. But where is it going? The path that you're avoiding, that uncomfortable path of starting over or doing something new or facing the fact that once again, like made a bad decision or maybe a series of them but no fault of your own. So, I mean, how many people choose their career when they're like 22? And then you're just supposed to, right. You're just supposed to stay on that path.
Yeah.
But people do. The thing is, like, the path that you're avoiding, you're gonna end up there eventually.
That's probably true.
And it's better to end up there when you can still do something about it than, I don't know, 30 or more years down the road when the way that you run into that is like supreme disappointment in like what you missed out on.
Yeah.
Because you were too afraid to make a change. Because sunk cost.
I like to think of sunk cost. When someone says, I don't know if I should do it, I always think about this predicament that I've actually ended up in, where you go on vacation to a beach and you look out the window and it's raining. But for some reason, you're at the beach in the rain. Because you've gone to the beach, you've paid for this beach trip.
Yep.
There's a beach right outside, let's go. But like, you're miserable. Why not just stay inside and be happy? Well, you can't because you paid to be at the beach.
And where does that go? You're like, well, we're at the beach, so I must swim.
And then you might get swept out to sea.
Sis, you're going to drown. Look at those rip currents. It's red flag. Don't. You're like,
I don't know, maybe that's the perfect metaphor.
I must swim. You know, all of a sudden
it gets worse and worse and worse.
But it's ridiculous. But that's how ridiculous the sunk cost fallacy is, where it's like, it's your time, maybe your life.
Yep.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It's like people who show up here to ski on the minus 30 days and then complain about the upper chairs not being, I would ski and whatever. I'm like, but it's minus 50.
You could die
at the
if
top
the
of that
chairlift
mountain.
stops.
You'd freeze to death in a short amount of time.
Yeah, they're ticked off that the chairlift is closed for their own safety.
Oh
my gosh, do you remember those people at dinner that one time?
Oh, yeah. Just complaining about not being able to go up to the top. I'm like, you have no idea what that would feel like. And what it would feel like is close to death. And you think that that's cool, like that would be neat, but it would not.
This reminds me of, you're starting to go back quickly. To go back quickly to you being cold. When Meredith first started skiing here, cold was exciting to you.
It was.
So we went on a ski trip for Christmas a few years ago, and it was between minus 25 and minus 30.
It was really cold.
And I'm looking at the temperature and thinking, absolutely not am I going out in there. No chance. I have skied in that. I know it's not good. And I was trying to plan the next day, maybe we'll sleep in. And you said, I'm going to see how it is, and I might go. That made me so mad, unreasonably mad. And now you know. You're like, no, minus 20.
I think it was getting frostbite last year.
Yeah.
That sort of was like, okay, all right, enough.
That brings us to our next kind of, I guess, motto. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Well, skiing, the frostbite is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And sunk cost. They go together because it was part of the ski group that I pay to be into, the women's only group that goes out early on Wednesdays. They had canceled the week before because it was too windy, so the wind chill was actually like legitimately minus 40. And then the next week, the temperature was a little bit warmer, but there was no wind. So I went. I didn't really want to go. Like even at that point, I was like, "This is a little cold. This is below what I would be in if I was just skiing by myself." I was like, "But if they're doing it, then it must be okay. I can do it. I shouldn't have done it." And
yeah,
I was
had to deal with your toe being sore for the rest of the season.
Yeah, like it impacted skiing. It impacted biking for like the first month of bike season. Like it would
You had a black tip.
Yeah, it was painful. It was terrible. And I didn't even make it the whole day. I ended up skiing out because I was like, I can't. I am so cold.
Yeah.
Like,
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Mm-hmm. Another example of this is being really good at CrossFit and quitting because you don't like it anymore.
yeah.
And we've talked about this, people saying why you could have done so well this year. You should still be competing. You're so good at it. Why wouldn't you?
People would kill to have your talent. It's like, because I don't want to.
Right?
Because I don't like it anymore.
Just because I'm a lawyer doesn't mean I want to work at a law firm, make that much money or however much money a lawyer makes.
Yeah. I mean, that logic, where does it go? I can do a lot of things that I don't do.
Right?
Most people can.
And on a micro level, just because you can enter into a race and run it when you're untrained doesn't mean you should, because you're risking injury. You're impacting your ability to train for another one down the road where you're in better shape.
I wish I had told myself in 2018 that. That is a bit of advice that 2018 me needed to hear.
Which is what?
Just because you can run a race last minute.
Oh.
Just because your girlfriend wants you to run a half marathon next weekend doesn't mean you should say yes.
Have you done it at all since? Just because you can? Well, I guess the skiing doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, not anything like that half marathon. I stay out of those situations. Maybe the first gravel race, the Fernie gravel grind that first year, off the couch into 120K.
Oh,
that was not the best. That was not the best situation.
Yeah. I do think that people who have physical capacity can run into trouble with this one.
It's when you have the capability, but not the capacity.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think another example is when you have an opportunity to work somewhere and the lifestyle of the job doesn't align with your values. Mm-hmm. Just because you can have that job, just because you can make this much money, doesn't mean you should. Just because you can lean out or look a certain way, you have the potential, doesn't mean you should, because there's always another side to it.
Do you remember back in 2022 when we were like, the business was starting to get busy? And I was coming off my time on my second round on that athlete advisory council for CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And that was when Justin Berg was still around, and they were hiring a full-time role for, what was that role? I can't remember the role, but he basically called me and offered me the job and was like, it's flexible. Here's the description. And I was trying to figure out how to make that work. Basically having another full-time job working for CrossFit. And you were like, no. But again, yeah, that's another good example. I almost wanted it. I felt really honored to have it basically handed to me. Out of all the people that would have applied, we want you to do it. Here you go. Mm-hmm. I almost felt bad for saying no. I'm like, well, this is my responsibility. My responsibility to who?
Right.
You know? Who?
It's okay to just choose what you know you want or don't want. And sometimes, and we can get into a whole other podcast about this, sometimes you make a decision that you feel that you regret, but regret is an unproductive and ridiculous feeling. You can never make the right decision all the time. Mm-hmm. There is no right and wrong decision. You make the decision right.
Yeah. Or you get out of whatever that misaligned decision that you made was.
Yeah, and you learn from it, just as you said. But I think that does go back. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to say yes. Just because you have a free night doesn't mean you have to say yes to hanging out with your friend. You do you.
You stare at the wall.
And maybe you get FOMO because you see all the photos the next day, but you can trust that you made that decision in the moment that you made it that was right for you. Mm-hmm. I think people regret when they make decisions for other people. That's where I think regret really comes up.
Yeah, because that person, this is just poor communication and the nature of transactional relationships. And the thing is, everyone is transactional to a degree. There are people who do a bit more taking, and there are people who do a bit more giving. Like, no one is truly neutral here unless you work really, really hard. So if you are in a pattern of making decisions for other people, like to appease other people, and you don't get recognized for that, like it never comes back around and benefits you in any way. It may take years, but eventually, like, you will become resentful of yourself and of other people, and that shit sucks. It's really bad. That's a bad situation to be in. And the people who do a bit more taking, like, they never see it. But it's not their fault that you've been making decisions to appease them without telling them, hey, I'm doing this for you. Because if you said to them, hey, I'm doing this for you, these are the terms of my relationship. I need you to agree to these because one day I'm going to come back around and I'm going to want something from you for doing all of this. Is that okay? They go, no, that's not okay. I don't agree to that. Don't do anything for me. No one would ever agree to that.
Yeah.
So just assume that, like, go forward knowing that no one would ever agree to you doing things for them.
I mean, some people would, but
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, just because you can buy a new car doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Just because you can get another dog doesn't mean you should get another dog. Alex?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I do tell myself that one with animals. I can put in an application, but that doesn't mean I should.
I don't know what foster organization or animal rescue would say yes to us.
We don't have an enclosed backyard, so we have too many cats.
Yeah.
I always look for the ones that it's like urgent.
Oh.
Needs home.
Oh.
There was this really, really cute Saint Bernard that nipped at an 11-month-old baby.
Yep.
And they needed to be rehomed. And I was like, well, we don't have an 11-month baby.
No, just a 5-month-old kitten, no problem.
And I thought to myself, doesn't mean you can. I'm like hovering over the button. Doesn't mean I should. I don't know. I honestly, that has been a really great motto for me in a lot of areas of life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good one. And even if you end up making the decision, I am going to do it even though I shouldn't, like, at least you considered it. I mean, you considered the bad outcome.
It's almost better if you have a tendency towards really poor decision making. It's almost better to consider it. But, like,
right.
Just to build awareness.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe what needs to happen is because your tendency is really bad decision making and impulsivity, it's like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rule for myself. And it's that I can make a decision, but I have to sit on it for at least 24 hours. And then you come back around and you're like, wow, what a horrible idea. You know, and that amount of time allows you to see it with a bit more clarity because all those neurochemicals and dopamine leave your brain. It's I think consider the hell out of bad decisions, but make sure you circle back to them after you don't make them and be like, wow, that was a really bad decision that I almost made. Yep. Because that's how you learn.
Yeah, totally. The last one I use this with clients, and it's sometimes to make clients feel better about abandoning a goal because, as we mentioned, some feelings can come from that. But I like to think of something as is putting more into this or following through on this going to be an opportunity for growth? And that's a very subjective question. Opportunity for growth can mean so many different things. But again, it allows you to look inside and think, how am I going to personally benefit from this? And it might be, I want to put myself through an untrained marathon to see what it feels like so that I know, like, what I'm capable of. And that's something that's valuable to the person. Another person might say, trudging through a marathon untrained is not going to be an opportunity for growth for me. It will ruin running for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know, but again, it's worth considering in advance and asking yourself that question. And sometimes the answer is clear and sometimes it's unclear.
I truly believe, as a result of a lot of the work that I'm doing, that we're doing, that people's ideas of growth and what opportunities will allow for growth are just very misdirected. I think what people think will help them grow, that, like, often does not. I think that a lot of us spend a lot of time avoiding the true opportunities for growth in our life.
Explain. I'm super interested in this.
What would you say is your biggest area for improvement right now? Or maybe like go back 8 weeks ago. What offers you the most growth as a human? Is it an Ironman? Is it going through the process of training for that?
No.
What is it?
Well, because I have 20/20 vision in hindsight now, it would be pursuing therapy where I dig a little deeper into my tendencies.
And so, yes, you were in our training like you usually are. You have goals associated with training that are hard, but there was something that was off that put you on a different path towards different growth. What was that?
Our relationship?
Well, what?
What about our relationship?
Yeah.
Probably the distress in it.
Mm-hmm. And if you had ballpark, how long had that distress been going on to some degree?
Multiple years.
Yeah. That's what I mean. And it's not anyone's fault that avoidance can be really passive. It's not always done with a lot of knowing, but there is, I would say, a fair amount of willful ignorance that goes on for us. We choose to ignore things and signs that there's a reason why 20/20 vision is so clear. You can look back with such clarity and see things and almost feel, yeah, maybe I knew something was a little bit off back then, but I didn't really do the right things there.
Yeah. I think and maybe this people can use it as a lesson or not use it as a lesson. I don't want to sound superior in any way, but relate it to other parts of their life or even their own relationships. Like we were arguing, but there was so much good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept looking at that good, thinking if we can just get rid of the arguing, we're great. And so I think I thought that the arguing was a result of something, well, like I said in the last podcast, something that you were doing or something that was small. Like the bike is fine. It's rideable, but there's something creaking in the drivetrain. And if we can just get rid of that, we're fine. But what I didn't realize was that the bike was cracked. And I didn't know. I just kept trying to fix the derailleur by banging against it. As silly as that sounds, like I was trying. I knew something was wrong. I was trying to fix it like over and over every time we fought. And then instead of, looking back over several years thinking, okay, this still is not working because we're still arguing about small stuff and they're blowing up. Yeah, we probably should have sought help a lot earlier. But for some reason, you think, no, I got this. You get back into the good weeks or the good days and you think, we're good. I'm good. But then it happens again and you just try what you always try. Or maybe you try a little harder. And then you get through it and then it's good again.
Yeah.
You almost don't even know that the opportunity for growth exists.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that type of avoidance is I think you don't know. It's passive, but you are still avoiding the work that would be more impactful.
But if someone were to say, Alex, I need you to commit to a year of therapy, individual and couples, and it is going to be really hard, but you are going to learn a lot about yourself. And you will most likely come out the other end in a better place. Would I avoided that? I don't think so. Maybe I would have resisted it. I'd like to think that I wouldn't. But I didn't even know that was what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think opportunities for growth just presents themselves when they're presented. And that's when you have to be aware of it.
Yeah. Things happen as they happen.
Yeah.
It's almost, you can't really rush towards a finish line. But I think I think for a lot of people, then, and the reasons why they seek out things to do, it's potentially sometimes an indication that there is deeper work to be done.
You mean endurance athletes?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. Just a thought.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
I think of opportunity for growth in more small scale. Like, is running this race when you're injured an opportunity for growth? Or are you going to have more negative impacts from it as a result of doing it? Like, you might end up with microfractures or hurting some other part of your body because you're compensating, or just having a really bad time out there because you're in pain, and not the good kind of pain.
Yeah. And so if someone's resisting pulling the plug on a race they're not prepared for, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because likely, the opportunity for growth is on the other side of that. It's like there's something that's you feel bad about.
Yeah.
There's something going on here, and choosing to not do the race and to like be in that discomfort and deal with those feelings is probably going to help you more than hobbling yourself through this race.
Right. Yeah.
That's the opportunity for growth. Like it's almost like there's always an opportunity for growth. Like, which one is it?
Right. Right. Yeah. And maybe the opportunity is some people can get all the way through a build and then get injured right before the race or get sick. Very common. And the opportunity for growth that has come up for a few people that I've worked with is taking that moment to not do the race, but recognize all the value that they gained in doing the training and knowing that they were ready to run it. And there are always more races. Yeah, life is just, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's fun to revisit this topic with a new perspective several years later.
Yep. Anything else?
No, I think I said it all.
You got it all out.
Did you get it all out?
I did. Thanks for taking me on this journey with you.
Thanks for being on it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that gave you some new tools and ways to consider goal setting across a lot of different areas. And as we head into New Year's, I do think it's important to hold on to what feels right and what feels true, and to not force yourself into doing things because you think that you should, or you think you owe other people, even your former self, those things, because you don't.
Even your future self.
All you have is your present self. Be present with that self.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Deep. All right. Well, thanks for listening. As always, please feel free to share this one if you think that someone would get something out of it. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and we will catch you on the next episode.